Hello and welcome. My name is Bridget Phillip. I'm the president of Erie Catholic School System, and I welcome you to the State of the System update. Some of the things that we'll be covering today include safety and security in our schools, an update on what's new for the next academic year, and to give you an update on enrollment for the 22-23 school year. We will also be joined by Jeff Martin, our Director of Technology. Jeff will be talking about the insurance coverage that we'll have for this upcoming school year. This will be coverage that we have for both the Chromebooks and also the iPads. He will also be explaining some of the online security features and safety features that we have. Then after this presentation, we will be sending a handout to all parents so that they can actually use these features at home as well. We'll also be communicating about the new devices that we're going to have for our elementary students. And finally, Don Smith, our Director of Finance, will go over budget for the 21-22 school year and also talk about ESSER funding that we received. I want to get started with school security. We have been talking a lot about school security, not just over the past 2 weeks and everything that has happened in Texas, but definitely we have been talking about this for a number of months. In fact, our efforts began in October, and there were 4 different areas that we focused on this year. Some of them are new initiatives, and some of them are future plans that we have for 2023. The first thing we did was we trained our teachers. We asked State Trooper Rico Coletta to come in during our in-service days, and he focused on presentation and simulation activities with the active killer presence in the school. I do want to take a moment to let you know that it was not just the teachers that participated in this presentation, but also secretaries, custodial, maintenance, anyone who is associated with the school was encouraged to attend these in-service presentations. This presentation also was not just limited to school training, classroom training, but also first responder communication. So when the first responders are coming into the school, what you can expect and how you are to understand what their recommendations would be to communicate with them. The next thing that we took a close look at is safety bags. Some of our schools did have safety bags in their classrooms, but we recognized that not all schools and not all classrooms had those safety bags. These safety bags equip the teachers with necessary items in case a lockdown would happen or any other incident. And so the items for these bags we are collecting through the donations of donors and also through local agencies. These bags are something that our teachers can also take with them. So if they are going on a field trip or possibly using an outdoor classroom, they're encouraged to take their safety bags with them whenever they're with their classes. We also knew that we needed to do an audit of our video cameras. All of our schools have video cameras, but it was time to take a look to see if we needed additional video cameras. So we found out that, including many of our hallways, there needed to be more emphasis on the entrances and also the exits. This summer, we're going to add 89 new cameras to all of our schools. This project was funded by a generous anonymous donor, and we're so grateful that we are able to do this project this summer and have everything ready by the following fall 2022 for our students to return. Lastly, we took a look at our safety and security. Our plans have been in place since the schools began 5 years ago. And even though those plans are only 5 years old, it was time to take an assessment of those plans. So we hired a firm, and they have been reviewing these plans and giving recommendations back to Erie Catholic. We are going to look at those recommendations and be able to assess what is needed and how we are able to improve our safety even more in our schools. These four things are not the only things that we've been looking at, but they're the four major things that we are looking at with our schools and school safety. We know that these are also things that we have not just taken a look at in the past 2 weeks, but this is something that we've been looking at again for the past 8 months. As time goes on, we will continue to update our families on how we are keeping our schools safe, but know that training for our teachers, making sure that all of our classrooms have those safety bags, making sure that all of our schools have as many video cameras as possible for the hallways and entrances and exits, and making sure that our safety and security plan are thoroughly um, written and evaluated so that we are ready if an incident would occur. So, what's new? I want to talk about 2.5-year-old preschool and let you know that we have expanded for the 22-23 school year opportunities at both St. James and Our Lady of Peace. This 2.5-year-old program was already in existence at St. George and Blessed Sacrament, and expanding to all four campuses has allowed us the opportunity for additional enrollment. And if you have anybody or know anybody that is interested in the 2.5-year-old preschool program, please make sure to send them our way. Just a little bit about academics and curriculum. I'm sure as parents, you've heard a lot about NWEA testing over this past year. It is our goal to continue to test the students 3 times a year and to use that testing for our decision making within the classroom and with each individual student. So, looking at the classroom as a whole and where the students excel and where they might have deficiencies, but also individually. And so, as you are meeting with the teachers, especially in parent teacher conferences, please ask them about that NWEA testing, knowing that we are working very closely not only with each of our individual teachers, but also with the diocese, with the training needed so that the teachers are able to understand those results and how they can use them in the classroom. And lastly, I want to talk a little bit about math textbooks. We are moving to new math textbooks for the 22-23 school year. And this is an initiative that has been going on for the past 2 years. We have been piloting different series and have finally decided to go forward in purchasing those new math textbooks. More information on the textbooks and about which classes will be receiving them for the fall. A quick update on enrollment. I first want to say thank you to all of the parents who did a great job with our current enrollment for the 21-22 school year, meaning that we had very strong enrollment this year. And Dawn Smith is actually going to talk a little bit more about how this positive enrollment has really impacted our budget here in a little bit. Knowing that we had a positive enrollment for 21-22, we also saw a lot of students that went through the enrollment process very seamlessly for 22-23. So I thank all of you parents out there for doing your part to complete all of that information online for the following year. And I wanted to let you know that our projections for this coming year is that in kindergarten through 8th grade, we're looking at having 1650, so 1,650 students in K through 8. And we're looking for an increase in the preschool population to 428. So overall, on our 6 campuses, we are looking to have an enrollment of about 2,078 students. The preschool number is one that we have been working on for about for 2 years now. COVID took a very hard hit on our preschool numbers back in 2000 to 2001. We rebounded quite a bit here in 21-22, and we are projecting another increase for the 22-23 school year as well. We also hope that the addition of the 2.5-year-old preschool program at 2 additional campuses will also help to that increased enrollment. I also want to do a shout out to our 8th graders. I know that they will be leaving us and they will be enrolling at other locations. And so they will definitely be missed. And we hope to hear all the wonderful successes of our 8th grade students as they transition to high school. We will be celebrating with them over this next week the different graduation and graduation activities planned for our 8th grade graduates. We have a lot more to get to, so at this time, I will turn it over to Jeff Martin to give you an update on that technology information that I shared with you. And then also, Don Smith will share some information with you regarding the financial and stable financial situation of Erie Catholic School System. If at any time you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Thank you, and I hope you all have a blessed summer.
Hi, my name is Jeff Martin, and I'm the Director of Technology at Erie Catholic School System. I am going to be talking about 3 things: the insurance coverage that we will be having next year, the different safety features that we have for our students in the schools, and new devices for 3rd graders. First thing is, this coming school year, every student will have insurance on their device. This is going to be covering broken screens, broken hinges. So there's going to be no fees that are coming out of nowhere. However, we do want to stress the importance of taking care of their devices. With everything going on, parts aren't always easy to find, and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the devices back. So if we can have the students take care of the devices as best as possible, but they are insured for next school year. The big thing I wanted to talk about was our internet safety and security. So we have 5 layers of security. With everyone having a device, it's very important to do our best to keep the kids safe and keep them on the things we need them to be on, and do our best to keep them away from the things they shouldn't be on. So we have 5 different layers. First one is the Sonic Wall. We have another program called Google Admin, GoGuardian, Apple Classroom, and Bark for Schools. So the first one is our Sonic Wall. Our Sonic Wall is our primary firewall. I'm sure most people at work have this at their work. It's our first line of defense. It's our big defense. It protects our student and teacher devices. It protects viruses, explicit content, but still things are able to get through. So we wanted more protection instead of just this first line of defense. So we have something called Google Admin, where I can set rules on the back end. I can allow certain extensions to be added to the Chromebooks and certain add-ons. This is so the kids aren't just adding on any kind of extension that they want. If a Chromebook is stolen, we're able to lock it, and then a message will come up showing where it needs to be returned. And the big one is YouTube settings. This is probably one of the hardest things to keep tabs on. There's there's a few settings that they have, but thousands or millions of hours are added to YouTube daily. So AI does a pretty good job, but still things are able to sneak through, which is why we went and purchased a another program called Go Guardian. This is a great piece of software that works when the kids are remote or at school. And this is for the Chromebooks. So it allows the teachers in grades 3 to 8, they can monitor what the kids are doing on their Chromebooks in real time. The teachers are able to limit tabs, whether the kids only have one tab open or 3 tabs. The teachers are able to limit that. They're also able to limit the websites that the kids are on. They can decide there's only 4 websites they're allowed to be on during that class, or they can choose, here are the websites that I do not want the students to be on, so it'll block them. So this is another line of defense to blocking different websites and the kids from going on them. If they do go on things they're not allowed to go on, the teacher can simply push a button, lock the screen. If they need to take a screenshot of what the students are on, that's an ability they can do. They can send messages only to certain students, for example, to stay on task, or let's not get on that website, things like that. So that's all real time. It's remote. It's in school. It's a big defense when it comes to what the kids are doing during class. The next one is called Apple Classroom. This is for the K-2 students that are on the iPads. When the kids are in school, the teachers can see the iPads using Apple Classroom in real time. Similar to the Go Guardian, they can lock a screen, so a picture of a lock will come up on the screen and the students can do absolutely nothing. So if they're on something, they can be locked for any period. It could be a second, could be a couple minutes, whatever the teacher decides, and then they can be redirected quickly. There is another option where the teachers can lock the students on a certain app. If they want them to go on a certain app, they want all the kids to be on the app, they can lock the iPad so that they can't even hit the home button to get out of the app. They have to be on that certain app, so they're not switching, doing what they're not supposed to be doing. They can be locked in on a website. It's just another way for the teachers to monitor what the kids are doing when they're on their devices. So this is our fourth line of defense. Just so the teachers, they can actually see the entire class on their iPad at once. And then our last line of defense is called Bark for Schools. And this was developed after the Parkland shooting by a company, and they offer it free for schools. They also offer a parent portal that's a paid version for parents. If I'll send a handout about that later on. But we have been using this since September, and it gives us so much information daily. I can whitelist or blacklist websites with the click of a button very quickly. So this is another way to blacklist a website. So to try to get the students not to go on anything they're not supposed to be on. This works at home and school as well when they're on our school devices. If a student searches something or types something serious on a Google Doc or a Google Slide, it will alert a school admin right away. It'll give the time that the things were searched. It'll tell us everything with the date, time, IP address used, everything. So artificial intelligence analyzes thousands of activities per day, and it just looks for certain it learns. It's constantly learning daily. And if something serious stands out, it will send an alert right away, tell us exactly what was searched, tell us the students, and then we are able to get on this right away. And if we need to talk to the students or parents, or just so that we know all the data coming through. We get weekly data, daily data on all the different things that were visited. So this is probably one of the most important security that we have with our schools. Awesome program, and more information will come out for parents and the parent portal. Then the last thing we were going to talk about is the Chromebooks for third graders. Third graders will get a new Chromebook this coming year. At the end of the year, they hand it in, the Chromebooks get cleaned up, and then that student gets the same exact Chromebook the following year. So we want to do our best to take care of these Chromebooks and to keep them in our cases, because they're going to be with us for a few years. But I'm excited that everyone's got devices and we're all set to go. And I hope that helps you understand some of the security measures that we've taken with the Erie Catholic Schools. Next, Dawn Smith is going to be talking about the finances with the school system.
Greetings to all Erie Catholic families. My name is Don Smith, and I'm Director of Finance for the Erie Catholic School System. I have the pleasure of meeting many of you throughout this past year, and I'm here today to give you all a very quick update on the system's finances. The Erie Catholic School System is on very firm financial footing, maybe the best it has been since the system was formed. Enrollment has stabilized and is expected to grow slightly next year. We've been able to keep tuition increases minimal, even in a very high inflationary environment. We've been able to increase instructor pay while keeping tuition relatively flat. And we're also able to give all of our teachers an additional salary bonus this year. We've been able to do all this and still run a small budget surplus for the past 2 years running now. With enrollment looking to be on the uptick for next year and beyond, Erie Catholic Schools has really never been in a stronger financial position than we are now. And we are postured to keep Erie Catholic Schools as the best preschool through 8 learning environment in Northwest Pennsylvania. So I want to provide a little bit more detail here. So I'll go ahead and dive into the numbers a bit. On the first slide here, you'll see a pie chart that breaks down our revenues. If you do a little math, you'll see that about 71% of our operating revenue comes from preschool and kindergarten through 8th grade tuition and fees, represented by that darker blue and the orange wedges together. Our external funding sources for our system are few, and they represent less than 30% of our operating budget, as represented by the gray, yellow, and the light blue wedges. So as I mentioned earlier, we have budgeted for a very modest tuition increase this year, much less than current inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index. And there are no increases in our fee structure other than a very small increase to our technology fee. And so why did we increase that? Well, that was necessary to implement a discounted IT device insurance policy to protect the investments that we've made to our inventory of individual student devices. We're one of the very few systems in the area that provides a device for each and every student in our system. And breakage was a problem this past year, and so we negotiated a discounted insurance policy for our families, and that's going to enable us to provide this coverage for you below actual cost. Parishioners from all across the diocese help to fund our schools through the assessment payment, represented by the gray wedge. That source of revenue has also declined slightly over the past 2 years, but we are looking to offset this decline by raising funds through our advancement program. So we have set in motion a plan to increase our advancement revenue, which is basically another word for fundraising, pretty significantly over the next several years. with the goal of keeping tuition rates as flat as possible. Charitable donations, family involvement in fundraisers, and use of services like the after school program and summer program help to round out operating revenue and ultimately help us to reduce the need for increases in tuition and fees. If you as a parent have been wondering how involved you should get in fundraising and donations, ultimately you're really helping yourself and your children when you get involved. Every dollar we raise through these activities helps to put downward pressure on our tuition and fees. The next slide has a pie chart on it. And it breaks down our expenses. Erie Catholic Schools operates on a very lean operating model. We keep overhead and non-educational expenses as low as possible so that we can ensure that a very high proportion of our operating expenses are in direct support of your children's instruction and classroom experience. Almost 65% of operating revenue is dedicated to instructional expenses for our preschool and kindergarten through 8th classes, and that's represented by the yellow and gray wedges on the pie chart. For context, in the 1920 school year, the Erie School District only used about 52% of their operating revenue towards instruction. So we take a lot of pride here in ensuring that there's good stewardship of the resources our families provide to us, and that we have a very much a student-first approach when it comes to budget decisions and resource allocation. I'd also like to highlight the extended care and summer programs, as represented by the green wedge on the chart. We see these as critical services for our families, and we're looking forward to expand participation in these programs so that we can better serve our families. This year we have over 500 participants enrolled for our summer camp program. That's a big leap from last year, and we look to continue this expansion in the coming years. So the next chart I'd like to discuss on the next slide. This pie chart represents our elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, also known as ESSER. So we expended quite a bit of these funds over the past year and a half. So these funds were distributed to the Erie Catholic School System via the surrounding school districts on a per student basis. In other words, if a family resides within the border of the Mill Creek School District, we received a certain amount of funding for each child in the Mill Creek School District enrolled in our school. Same thing with Erie, Fairview, Harbor Creek, etc. So these funds purchased a lot of critical resources necessary for our system to continue to provide the best education available in the county during the pandemic. We purchased water and air sanitation technology represented by that the yellow wedge. So that consists of things like drinking water filtration devices and I-wave purification systems. These help to mitigate possible spread of the virus through those mediums. And we also purchased some climate control systems to increase air ventilation within some of the schools that were lacking. Represented in the orange wedge there are hardware purchases, which consisted mainly of devices and systems to facilitate remote learning. So we're talking about iPads, Chromebooks, smartboard technologies, etc. And also the required network upgrades inside the schools to support the increased bandwidth that we're having to deal with all this new technology being put on the network. So the blue wedge represents software purchases, which consist of applications such as GoGuardian. GoGuardian is a very important application that we use on our devices. It helps to block inappropriate internet content and also actively monitors student activity on the devices, and that will alert our teachers and administrators if intervention is necessary. We're also able to purchase all of the necessary equipment licenses to operate the various hardware platforms and devices that we invested in. So finally, represented in the gray wedge there on this chart are all the consumable supplies we're able to purchase. These consist of things like paper towels, detergents, sanitizers, and so on. And these were all necessary to support the increased cleaning and sanitation requirements brought on by the pandemic. I'll say that the ESSER funding was an extremely valuable resource that we put to the very best use possible over the past year and a half. And our goal was to mitigate COVID transmission within the schools and to keep the doors open. That was the ultimate goal. When that wasn't possible, we were able to seamlessly transition to a remote learning environment, both on the school level and on the individual level if a family wanted to keep their child at home. So overall, we were extremely successful in our efforts. The school system only closed our doors by exception, really. The entire system shut down for a brief 2-week period at the very height of the pandemic. Virtually all the other school systems in the area closed their doors and were operating on a remote learning basis for extended periods of time. We were able to use these funds to create a safe environment for our students, keep our doors open, and keep our children in the classroom as much as possible. So the last slide I'd like to discuss outlines the financial aid that was awarded during the present school year. Overall, our families received over $700,000 in direct aid from a variety of resources. Our single largest scholarship resource is the Erie Student Tuition Assistance Resource, or STAR grants. These funds are distributed under Pennsylvania's Educational Improvement Tax Credit Program, or EITC. In this program, individuals and businesses that pay Pennsylvania state income tax can earmark virtually all or a portion of their tax liability to go towards a Catholic school scholarship at the school of their choice. If you're interested in this program and you would like to steer your Pennsylvania income tax liability to one of our schools instead of the state treasury, please contact our administration advancement office for more details. The Diocese of Erie also provides direct and indirect financial aid to our families through the Bishop's Tuition Assistance Program and also indirectly through parish-based scholarships. There are also a large number of other scholarships available through external organizations like the Barber Center. I encourage all of our families to apply for tuition assistance if you think you'll be in a position of need. If you have questions, please contact your school business manager for more information. So in closing, I'd like to thank all the families that have chosen to sacrifice, often deeply, to provide your children with the absolute best education possible. My parents sacrificed for me when I was a kid. As a K through 8 Catholic educated man, I understand how the deep value that my Catholic school experience has provided for me, how it shaped me as a person, how it set me up for success later in life. Your children will look back and I'm sure they will feel the same. I have no doubt about that. So my promise to you as finance director is I will carefully shepherd the very precious financial resources given to me to manage on your behalf. These resources represent your time, your sweat, your labor. I don't take that job lightly, and I will do my very best to ensure they're efficiently leveraged to the ultimate benefit of our children and families. God bless you all, and again, thank you for choosing Erie Catholic Schools.